And so we talked about just all the traumas and different things that people go through and how that is internalized, right? And so a lot of our behavior is subconsciously driven, and that's driven from the internal working model from our past events, past experiences, past beliefs, and it contributes to, so this working model, things are filtered through that of how I understand myself, how I understand others, and how I understand the world. And then I interpret events through that lens. My understanding of self, others, and the world comes from that. Those what we call unthought knowns, they're implicit beliefs that I just know it's true. You know, if you ever think about something and you question it, it's like, how do I know that's true? And it's just like, just somewhere in the foundation of my being, I just know that that's true. Whether it may not be, it just could be a lie that you've learned that you just know is, you think you know is true. Automatic thoughts come out of that. We become reactive emotionally, and then we develop these behavioral patterns that oftentimes, you know, we all have those, right? We all have those patterns that we try to change, and then we find ourselves right back into them because those patterns fit our working model of how we understand things and how we function. And that contributes to what we see as stressful, how we interpret stress. Then last week, we really got into talking about the stress model, gave an intro to that we got the green path and we got the red path. So the green path is regulated. So when we experience stress and we're able to stay secure, that first square on the green path, we're secure. So I'm secure and my emotions are regulated. I have emotions. I have genuine emotions. They're not always positive. We're not talking about a fake, superficial happiness. Talking about real, genuine emotions, but they're regulated and they're useful, and I can be wise and thoughtful in how I interpret and use those emotions and how they inform me. I eventually will be successful, even if other people in that situation are not, because I'm walking by faith, right? That I'm staying regulated, I'm walking by faith, and it begins to open up those possibilities in the relationships and in life. If my internal working model gets triggered and I flip the switch and I just, I go into insecurity and I begin to react, right? And eventually that's going to lead to some kind of failure in that moment, in that relationship, and just continue to put limitations in my way. And I'm just walking by sight, right? I'm just, what I see and what I understand is all that I can experience. I'm really not thinking outside of that and being able to regulate all of that like I can in the green. If that brief overview is, I'm sure, not enough to understand this, go to our website, traumabasedchristianparenting.com, and those are in the blog section. You can watch those two videos if you weren't here for them to get a background in the stress response and the stress model. But we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to add to that. Okay, so we talked about green is regulated, red is dysregulated. Okay, and we talk about dysregulated is both chaotic, like outwardly like chaotic, and also rigid, like turning inward and shutting down. It's not regulated, useful, emotional. It's controlling me. It's causing me to go to one of those extremes. But we're going to add yellow, and that's not really on the chart per se, but it's when I need to use caution. I'm still regulated, so I'm technically still on that green path, but I start to have that, like, oh no, do I need to, do I need to stop? Like, what's going on? Like, I'm not feeling so good. I'm regulated, but I need to be careful, and I need to try to work. So we're going to dig into each of these. So when I'm green, like the stoplight is green, things are easy. I'm regulated. I can stay regulated. There's really no danger of me not staying regulated. Whatever's going on, I can navigate through that with my kids. And this really applies to all different aspects of life, but I can navigate through this with what's going on with my kids. This isn't hard, right? I can keep going. I'm regulated. I got this, and just keep moving. Okay. Once yellow, I start to have that like tension. I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed. I'm challenged. It's not feeling as good. What do I do with that? I'm not red yet. I'm still technically green. I'm regulated, but I'm starting to feel that pull, like, I'm gonna lose it. I need to begin to implement my coping strategies. I need to use some ways of calming down, take some deep breaths. I need to honor that. I need to acknowledge that I'm starting to feel this is a lot. Okay. And most of you are here because you get you go past this and into the red probably with your kids, because we all got some really difficult kids if we're dealing with trauma, and they will get you into that yellow. You can still keep going. Like, let's still keep working on this. We don't need to shut down, right? We don't need to go into that dysregulated place, but I need to really examine, like, what am I believing about this situation that's making it stressful? We talked a little bit about that idea in the stress response. What do I believe about this that's making it overwhelming? Because the situation is one thing, what I believe about it is another. If there's a situation happening and I believe I can't handle this, this is going to get out of control, this is going to end in disaster, if I'm having those kind of beliefs, I'm going to be ticking away and moving towards red, right? I'm going to be going towards overwhelm. But yellow isn't something to avoid. So if I'm, what I see a lot with parents with traumatized kids is that they avoid situations that they know are going to put them into the yellow, and are going to be those like, am I going to be able to stay green? Am I going to go red? We tend to avoid those, but that just allows those problems to continue to fester. We don't want to avoid those things. We want to gain mastery. We want to be in those situations. We want to be present with that. We want to work through these challenges, and we want to grow from it. Right? Think about this in any area of life. If any subject in school, any skill, think of exercise, whatever you want to think of, if I avoid things that are challenging and stressful, I never get better at it. So as parents, we want to do those things. Like, I'm going to confront this with my child. I'm going to set this boundary. I'm going to do this, and I know it's going to be really hard for them, but I need to step in there because it's going to help us move forward. And I need to learn how to master those situations and deal with those situations without it sending me into that red place. Over time, those things that are yellow, they become green, right? So if I continue to deal with something and I realize, I can do this. I've done this about 10 times now, and nothing, the world hasn't ended. Nothing's been awful. Now I begin to believe I can handle it. And whenever the next time comes up, I stay green and I don't even feel that overwhelm. It's just like, we're just doing this again, right? So if you think about your kids, and what are those things that pull you into yellow that you tend to like try to avoid those? What if you stepped into those situations and allowed yourself to master those to where you as a parent can be just completely confident? And how much will that affect your child, who then is like, and to speak to the control thing that Kevin was talking about, a lot of times in the red, when we're dysregulated, we want to control the other person by bringing them over to red. And if I know that you're completely green, completely calm, completely regulated, and I can't do that, my dysregulation, my control, my trying to disrupt that now doesn't work. And I begin to say, well, what am I going to do, right, as a child? You can also think about this from the child's perspective. If I'm only giving my child things that keep them green and don't challenge them, then they're not growing, they're not learning, they're not getting better. That I need to encourage them and challenge them, and even require them to do things that are challenging, knowing that sometimes they're not going to do well with that and it's going to go red. I need to stay green. So you can see this stoplight thing, this red, yellow, green thing going on for it's an internal thing going on for you, and it's an internal thing going on for your kids. And that, even if I know they're going to go red, I still need to step into that. And if I can stay green, then that what's red for them will begin to become yellow. And then things that are yellow for them begin to become green. This is a process that the more I challenge myself, the more I allow that stress to be something I experience, the more I master it, the more of those skills I gain, and more things become green for me. And the same for your kids. The more I challenge them in our relationship, the more those things that are red will become yellow. And like, okay, like whenever I'm working with people and it's like, okay, it's still hard for him, but it was a 2-minute situation and not an hour situation. That red has become yellow for them, that situation. Okay. So think about that in the context of your kids, and in the context of your experience. So simultaneously, as you're looking at a situation, an event, are you green and your child's red? Are you both yellow and this is challenging for both of you, and you work through it? How can you kind of use that as a scale to judge, what's going on. And so there may be times that if I absolutely know that this is going to go red for my child, I may decide to do that, sparingly. I don't want to like completely overwhelm them. We'll get to red here in a second, but let's finish up yellow. So if you think about the whole stoplight thing, right? So hopefully most of us keep going through a stoplight when it's green, right? Most of us do that. And most of us, when it turns red, we stop, right? So those things usually are pretty set. What type of people are there at yellow lights, right? You ever see those people that when it turns yellow, they slam on the brakes and they stop, right? And then there's those people that whenever they see yellow, they're like, hit the gas, let's go. We're going to make it through, even if it's orange by the time we get, it turns yellow or turns red in the intersection. And then, the third type are those people that can do, can kind of stop, can go, like they read the situation, and I tend to, when it actually comes to driving, I tend to be number two. I just hit the gas and go. And there's a problem when someone's in front of me and they're the slam on the brakes and I'm the step on the gas kind of person. I've had some close calls. But when it comes to this kind of thing, we don't want to be in either of those categories, right? We want to be able to read the situation, proceed with caution, and kind of understand, like, okay, am I able to handle this? Let's keep dipping into it. Let's move a little bit. So what type of yellow person are you when it comes to relationships? If something becomes stressful with your kids, do you immediately back away from that and just not enter into that challenge and just not deal with it? Do you tend to be the type of person that whatever's going on for your kid, even if you know it's going to end up with complete chaos for them and complete chaos for you, you just go? Or are you to the point where you can be able to read the situation, read kind of where they're at, read kind of what you can handle, and make a wise choice? Because that's kind of where we want to be. So in the comments, it'd be interesting to hear kind of where you're at, and maybe in different situations you're at, or even with different kids or different types of things. Maybe you're I'm going to stop immediately with certain things. Maybe I'm going to hit the gas with other things. Maybe, give us an idea. We want to talk about some of that when we get to the end. Just kind of what type of yellow person are you? When things start to get stressful, what do you tend to do? Do you plow through it no matter what's going to happen? Do you stop, or do you find that sweet spot of proceeding with wisdom and proceeding with caution? And so put some of that in the Facebook chat section, in the Zoom call here. We'd love to hear from you on that. So let's talk about red for a little bit while you're thinking about that. Red means I'm dysregulated, I need to stop. So if you find yourself in a situation, you've dysregulated, you've gone into red, it's overwhelmed you, I need to stop. Like, I need to step back from this situation. I don't need to do that as soon as I get yellow, but I do need to do that whenever it gets red, and I'm just going to go bananas, right? If I keep going, I'm just going to make things worse. And I get it. There's times where, like, in the situation, like, you can't completely stop engaging, if your kid's out of control, that kind of thing, but you can stop what you're doing. You can stop the dysregulated, out of control stuff. And you can even internally step back from that and take a breath and regroup yourself. Like, there needs to be a barrier there that says, okay, I'm not going to keep going down this path. I'm gonna set that limit for myself. And if I'm entering into a situation that I know, like, if I know that if I go to a restaurant with my kid, they are going to terrorize the restaurant, I'm going to lose my mind, and we're going to get kicked out of the restaurant. If I know that's going to happen, I may not want to do that. Right? There's times where I know something's going to be red, and I'm just not going to do it. So if I know that going to the restaurant is going to be challenging, and I may need to go sit in the car with the child for a while until they calm down, and that's yellow to me, But if it's going to be just, it's going to ruin everything, maybe I need to do something different. Or if I can't do something different, maybe I need to prepare for that red in a way that I have support. I need to consider that. So whenever I go red, I need to regroup. I need to get help. I need to step outside. I need to do something to regulate myself. Before I can move on, I need to regroup and regulate myself, or else I'm just going to make things worse. Okay, so let's talk about your kids for a little bit. Your kids are going to go red much more easily, and we can't avoid every situation that's going to dysregulate them and get them into chaos or rigidity and shutting down. We can't do that. But we need to begin to notice when they're yellow, when they're starting to get stressed, and try to help them stay out of the red, right? And we're going to talk about here in a little bit. We have this stress course that we're making available. Pay what you can afford. It's not going to overwhelm you as far as the cost of that. We also have a dance model that is super helpful in conjunction with this. That's also pay whatever you can afford for it. And with those courses, we just ask you to pray and be reasonable about what you can literally afford, because that's helps us provide it for more people if you can afford more. If you can't, we want to just let you have that for whatever, right? We don't want that to be a barrier at all. But the dance model course is going to help you be able to, when I see them turning yellow, I start to communicate through the dance model, and I start to help them regulate. That's a whole strategy of communication to help them regulate it and help them avoid the red. Okay, so that's how that works in conjunction. So think about what's going on for you. Think about what's going on for your kids, and know that they're going to go red much more easily. And how can I keep them at least in the yellow and help them stay connected, right? And the dance model is great for that. And we don't obviously have time to go through all of that right now, but we have a free ebook on that too on the website, so you can just download that and read that, and that would be helpful. So that is the stress stoplight, and hopefully that was helpful to integrate and understand a little bit about the stress model. And again, if you weren't here for those first two in this series, go back, and maybe this will make more sense if you watch those two. Kev, anything to discuss about different types of yellow? Anyone sharing anything there that would be interesting to talk about?
Yeah, we've got a question here in the Zoom chat. Donna asked something great. She said, so what do you suggest if you need to have some space before dealing with the issue and the child doesn't want to do that? I guess that would be the yellow. Should you, as the adult, walk away for a few minutes if the child refuses to step away? And then we can usually come back in a bit, but if we don't have some space for both to calm down, then there could be a blow up the red. So how do you?
Yeah, and so as a parent, if I know I'm about to lose it, right? Absolutely. My child, and I will apologize. I'll own it. I'll say, before I just make this worse, I care about this, and I want to be warm and empathetic to that. And I just want to, step back and if they won't leave me alone, I would just say, that's okay. It might take me longer to be able to re-engage in this, because I want to, it's important. But if I need to, I'm just going to sit quietly here. I'm going to take care of that some way. If they're going to follow me and whatever, okay, then I'm just going to sit here until you give me some space in order to be able to do this appropriately. And I'm just going to set that boundary. And I don't always need to be a physical space. It can just be an emotional space that I don't feel like I have to engage when I can't, right? I just give myself permission to just be quiet and to find that peace. And just to, just even in the midst of my child screaming, I can sit there and pray, right? We don't have to assume that it has to look a certain way. What was there was another part to that. Oh, space for both. I see it here. They were saying space for both to calm down. Yeah. And so you can't always force the child to take that space, but you can give them that space by saying, I'm not going to engage you right now. And so that creates a natural space, even if it's not a physical space, is what I was. Yeah. Okay. That's a good question. That's sometimes tough because we can't get away. And still have 7 kids in my house, and there's nowhere to go that they don't, they're not there.
Yeah.
What else do we got?
Let's see. My 5-year-old goes from 0 to 100. Goes to 0 to 100 real quick. Yelling, boom, throwing, hitting.
Yep.
I might not even be ready. What do we do in that chaos, that hard left turn?
Okay, so yeah, so your child is just really chaotic, and they just go red, like boom. So obviously you can't avoid everything that's going to, because that would, life is causing them to go red. That's just an internal experience for them. So you just really have to focus on your experience, and that, okay, they're going to do that. And I'm going to stay regulated. I'm gonna use wisdom. I'm gonna give that emotional space for myself to just stay. And the big thing about the stress model is once we really understand that no matter how long they stay red, if I stay green, eventually they will regulate to me. There's only one of two possibilities. Either I'm going to dysregulate with them, or they're going to eventually regulate to me. And that may take a while. It might even not happen today. I mean, this might, but if I can stay green, it will change the nature of the relationship. And I know that it's unreasonable to say that if your child is chaotic for 24/7 every day, that you're going to always be green. But the more you can understand this and stay green, the more it's going to slowly get to a point where they will have those moments of regulating, and then they'll have bigger moments of regulating, and then they will realize they can't control you and they have to control themselves, and it will just slowly bring that back. Unfortunately, there is no magic, quick fix for someone that's that broken and chaotic. I mean, it's a deep wound that has to be, based on some really hard stuff that they went through. So it takes time with those kids, but it does work.
Yeah, something I'll add to that, Steve. I think what we're offering with the stress model, what we're offering even with kind of like the program of trauma-based Christian parenting, is not that nothing we give you is going to be fully inclusive of the complexities of those situations that you're dealing with. Like, and anyone who's saying, here's what's going to fix all of that, I would be wary. I would be wary of those folks. But what we are offering are Christian practices, right? Like prayer. The first, and where we're trying to help to incorporate and teach and train in the fundamentals that would allow you to have the presence of mind to where you, partnering with the Holy Spirit, are able to make those hard decisions. Like, what do I do? And like Karen, I see one of the things in the chat, which I totally understand. Someone who did kids ministry in New York City for 4 years, like, there's like a safety issue, right? So I'm in the moment, I'm yellow or I'm red, and then I'm like, I have to throw out a threat. I have to be a commanding presence because I need to keep kids safe. And there's some instances where safety is important. And where, some of those knee jerks are, I would say, are probably necessary. But I would say more times than not, the more practice I had with some of these, I was able to go, hang on, let me get a hold of myself. Is there really, what's really happening with safety? Am I just feeling threatened? And how can I shift to be present to this child who's being,
right,
who's very dysregulated, and am I going over top of them? Is that giving me what I want? Is that giving them what they want? And then going, and honestly, this is not normal. We are not wired for this, right? Christianity is countercultural. These practices that we're teaching are countercultural. And so last thing I'll say is have grace for yourselves in this.
Absolutely.
Because it is a process, and it takes time. And we can speak to some of the complexities of these situations and the circumstances, but truly the commitment to the practice and giving yourself grace because you're going to fail is super important.
As I look at, what Karen's comments there about, like, I'm usually yelling out threats because I don't want someone hurt, probably right now, most of us in those situations would be reacting in fear of someone being hurt, right? So that's an insecure, dysregulated place. What I would encourage you is that the movement for you over time, and this may take a while, is to move from a fear-based threat to keep people safe to a regulated way. I always tell people, like, if someone's in danger, like, that is the absolute first thing that we're going to do. And even if it doesn't fit the model, right? It's not in the model, no, we're going to keep them safe, right? But this concept here says, I'm going to set boundaries, I'm going to give commands, I'm going to be assertive in a regulated way, and I'm going to keep people safe, but I'm not going to let me go to that place of fear, because I am now in control of myself. And like I said, that takes some time. and it takes some time to get there. And if I'm honest, I'm not always there when that happens in my home. No one will 100% of the time, but you will be more often. And the more often you are, the more effective those boundaries and assertiveness will be, because you'll be able to keep people safe and be communicating that I'm in control. I'm still in, you're out of control and I'm not. And that's the message that we want to send with this, not immediately stop the behavior, because the only way to stop the behavior is by dysregulating ourselves and laying down the hammer and becoming more of a problem than not. So yeah, you can still do all that stuff with being regulated.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah, I love your heart not wanting to be the cause of more hurt. Yeah, I mean, and it breaks my heart when I am the cause of more hurt for my kids, and we all are to some. But we want to be a safe place, and the more you just lean into that heart posture, the more you're going to be able to find ways to stay regulated, even when they are absolutely bananas.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff. So, yeah. So do we want to jump into the next part of just talking about the program and then come back to some more questions? Hey, while Kevin's talking about the aspects of the program that we have to offer and different things that we have, including some of the stuff I already talked about, the pay what you can afford stuff, the comprehensive program, be thinking about questions. We can't answer questions that have, involve, teaching the entire program to answer, obviously. But anything about the stress model, anything about how to use the dance model, if you're familiar with that, anything about the programs that we offer, we're happy to answer those. And then the nitty gritty, like dealing with those really super complex stuff, we do in the comprehensive program, where we can really dig into that and spend the time on that, which unfortunately we don't have here tonight. So I'm going to share this, and Kevin's going to talk about some of the things we have to offer and go from there. I think if I can change the page, there we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. So yeah, so in the chat already, you don't even have to do anything. You can find that stress model course link. It's in the Zoom chat. It's also in the Facebook chat. I put a bunch of stuff in there, so hopefully it's not too convoluted. But essentially, it is an 8 video series course. And so it's an expansion of one of the modules that we have in our trauma-based Christian parenting comprehensive program. And so the way that we like to communicate it is just one of the pieces, right, of the puzzle. There's the other 9 that make that complete total parenting picture, and it's a pay what you can afford. So as Steve has said, pray about that, whatever you can afford. We just ask that you take an honest look at that, and yeah, that you move forward as such. We also have the dance model course, and so that is still available, and it is in a pay what you can afford model as well. So again, they're both $97 courses. You can get them for as low as $10, and you can pay in increments as such. And again, the closer you get to that 97, the more that we're able to offer more iterations of this, additional courses to people that can't afford it. And if you absolutely can't afford 10, just email me. My email is also in the chat, and we'll figure something out. So let me know. And then the other part is this, and I'll put this link in the chat when I'm done here speaking to it. But it's our comprehensive program. So again, if you think of parenting as a set of practices, right? We've been talking this, a set of practices, not things that you're going to be perfect at, but that are going to give you that space and time and wisdom in those moments where you feel dysregulated, because we will always feel that way. We just get better at coming down from it, being present to it, not shaming it or judging it. And so this is the 10 module course. This is all the puzzle pieces. But again, it's this big shift. And this is what I want to make sure we're clear on. It's a massive shift in mindset. This is not just a set of like, here's the best top 10 things to do to be a better parent. What we're literally implementing here is parenting, but also discipleship. We're going to present moments of conflict or moments of dysregulation or moments of challenge as moments as opportunity. We're going to redeem those moments for you as a parent so that you can care for your child and be present to them without having to be a psychologist, without having to do 4 PhDs. Steve, I don't know, we have 5 now or something, but you don't need any of that.
No, I wish.
we've designed this, we've done the research, we've done the work, so that you can get up and running with this. And you get real-time support. So, right, like if you were to join a church tomorrow, if you joined a church, you'd be in a community of people that are following Jesus together. We think it operates the same way for trauma-based Christian parenting. You need a community of people. So you get access to our private members-only Facebook group. As you're having issues or challenges, people are commenting in there. They might have the same issues as you do. They can give deep wisdom and insight, our other trauma-based Christian parenting experts into those for you. And you get that in real time. Also, Steve comes in, chimes in, and gives his wisdom in that. And there's also weekly Zoom coaching calls. We see this more as like a teaching call, but we do use the word coaching. This is more of a teaching call. The coaching calls are more, less people attend those. And those are more for you to get some more of that kind of small group time where you can really unpack a deeper particular issue that you're having. And Steve can speak into that or give you resources and kind of aim you in the right direction. And they're just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful pieces of the program, but you get those forever. And then you also get lifetime access, right? So the issues that you're having with your 4 and 5 and 7-year-olds are going to be different, right? Hormones hit 12, 13, 14, things are shifting and changing, maybe even into high school. And so all of this is always applicable and you have access to it at your fingertips forever. That's what we do, a lifetime access. And so it's organic. So just like you saw, we took that stress module that we unpacked in the course, and we have now kind of pieced it into this 8 video course series that is available to you. And we will continue to do that, add new courses, refresh older courses with new research and new practices, and continue to add to that every single year. And so this is always growing and designed to be a $997 program, and you will not have to pay again once you pay once. And so the program is usually $697, and we're offering $100 off. We also have some payment plans. So if you need those, you can email me directly and I can set you up on those. And that'll be available to you through this coming Monday at 11 p.m. So that'll be February 22nd. I believe that will be available to you. And then you're also going to get a startup session. And this is honestly probably the best thing that we've offered. And I can't stress enough the importance of it. And the reason is this: if you're a parent and you're not a part of this, you're not one of our members, you sit down with Steve for an hour and he basically goes, tell me your story, tell me your history, tell me your children. And then he goes, hey, we've got these 10 puzzle pieces, right, that add to the whole trauma-based Christian parenting comprehensive program. Here's the 2 you need to work on right away. The other ones can wait. Here's the 2 I would suggest you move to and work on that. And so that session is going to get you kind of that shot in the arm. You're going to feel that relief. You're going to go, oh man, yeah, okay, those major issues, I can at least wrap my arms around. And then you can move to those other modules that are going to continue to help you. But Steve will be able to kind of give you what that kind of fast track 30 days will be so where you can kind of work with your family as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. So that kind of outlines what we got to offer, and we're just here for wherever you're ready to jump in. Sometimes I get messages people can't afford the whole program. That's why we do stuff that's pay what you can afford. That's why we do free stuff. We completely want to meet you and help you where you are. Obviously, some things take more of our time and energy and expenses, and then we do have to charge for that. So wherever you're ready to join us and jump in, we're here for you. So any questions about the program? Any other questions about the content, the stress model specifically? Happy to answer any of those things. I think while people are thinking about that and putting down some questions, just to reiterate that our goal is to shift the mindset. Not to give those 10 steps to a better you kind of thing. That this is, and that's why we don't just sell courses. We do sell courses, but that's not all we do. We offer the program where you get coaching. We teach you the art of this, not just here's a book or here's some videos, because that's not enough. When you're learning an art, you're learning a whole new mindset, a way of thinking. you can't just do that by watching a couple videos and reading a book. That just, you need someone to guide you, and that's why we're here for you with that. So what kind of questions we got, if anything yet?
So we have on Facebook, we have Cindy Henry, and I've been chatting with her. So Cindy, really glad you're with us tonight. She
Thanks for
said,
being here, Cindy.
any advice on how to become, a thinker, a person a better communicator. It looks like, and I'm interpreting a little bit here, Sydney, but it looks like she's someone who wants to say no a lot, just because it's difficult to kind of think through that, slow down, and kind of, wade into the minutia of why is this request for my child at 11 o'clock at night or whatever it is, right? How would you speak to her about that and getting away from just saying no, but communicating a little better?
Yeah, I think, if you do look at the dance model, it'll, so if your child is always coming to you with stuff, there's some level of insecurity there, right? They're seeking you to meet a need over and over and over again. And so, the things we kind of do with that is to try to understand, and empathize with them needing that answer, or them needing that, and to speak to that insecurity beneath that, because even if you said yes to everything they wanted, it still wouldn't satisfy that. So we need to in the program, we'll go through and help you reform that foundation. I kind of look at it as like if you have a bucket, right, and you need to fill that up, but there's no bottom to it. That's how answering those questions feels like. Even if I'm giving them reasonable answers, I'm giving them yeses, I'm giving, it's just pouring out the bottom. So they're constantly needing more. What we do is we try to help you form a bottom to that through help creating security through the dance model, which, is just kind of speaking to what's going on, that, we need to be asking these questions. Something's not feeling so good for you. Yeah, so the dance model is helpful. The other thing that we talk about is that we need to go and almost answer questions or meet a need when they're not asking for it. Because the idea of people that are always asking questions is that you don't want to meet my need. I have to coax you into saying yes. I have to coax you into meeting my need. So I'm going to do an end around that. And when they're not, even if that's, I have to seek out the time that they're not, I'm going to do an end around that and go meet a need that I know they have, or a want that they have, when they're not pestering me for it, and let them know you don't need to coax me into doing this. So
so we got Sherry here in the Zoom chat. She says she's got a 3-year-old, goes 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, screaming fits every turn. And she says she understands how to deal well with that. However, her husband, who's only raised one very compliant 19-year-old, can't understand, why is this happening? It doesn't really get the situation with their little guy. How can she help to kind of get him on board with that? I wish you had your little wire ball right now that you use.
Yeah, right. Let's work with that. So 2 things I would say is just make this material available. Say, hey, can you watch this series? Go to, they're all on the main website, and you can say, hey, here's some video posts that you can watch, and just encourage you to do that. But you can't make him do that. And so beyond that, the main thing is that the more you learn this, the more you do it, and he sees you having success. I mean, I've had a lot of parents come in and like, my wife or my husband is having all these success, and they're building a relationship with my child, and I'm not, and I'm doing this, and what's wrong? Sometimes they need to have that motivation of seeing this is going well for you, and you have what I want, and be able to come to the conclusion that what they're doing isn't working on their own, as opposed to you telling them. So give them opportunities for the material, and then give them opportunities to see it going well for you as you learn more and more of this, because they're going to then be motivated to have what you have once they see how well it's working.
So Steve, there's a question about the stress module and the dance module, and we have those both in the pay what you can afford frame. So $97 course, you can pay as low as $10 for it. Is there any overlap? How would you kind of quickly break those 2 out?
So the dance model and the stress model are two of the modules in the comprehensive program. So if you think about the 10 modules that we have there's overlap in all of them, but they all build on each other, and then they can all be used sort of as content that, especially these models, can be used as a standalone. So when you talk about the stress model, it's a standalone content that's super helpful. The dance model is helpful in and of itself. The two of them together is even more helpful. You saw it was even hard for me to talk about how to fully work through the stress model with your child without using the dance to help them get from red to green. So they overlap and they integrate together. So if you're not able to do the full program, which would have those two plus everything else, doing both of them, or whatever, doing one and then doing the other, however you want to do that, but they would both, you wouldn't find that, oh, if I buy one, then I buy the other, it's 90% the same, right? I've read books like that. It's like, I love this book and I get another book by the same author and it's like, same stories, it's like 90% the same. You're not going to find that. You're going to find 10% the same, and the other 90% just complements each other.
Checking Facebook here, see if we've got any other additional questions. Not seeing any there. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat here. We'll give that just a couple minutes.
I see Karen answered that question. She's obviously gone through both of those modules and kind of echoed what I said before I said it. So I guess I echoed what she said because I didn't read her response. Thank you, Karen. Any other questions that we can help you with, or anything that if this is new to you and you haven't been here? I know some of you are already members of the full program. Thank you for coming back and continuing to get this content as well. Some of you, this might be the first time you're here and you're like, okay, what is all this? Do I want to jump into, a 597 program? Oh, we didn't talk about that we do give a 90-day money back guarantee.
We did skip over that. Yeah. So
yeah, I forgot to open that slide for you.
That's plenty fun.
There's no risk to you, right?
So you have 90 days. You hop in there from the date that you purchase and buy. Our system tracks like how much time you spend on the videos. And basically what we say is, if you've given the program a good try and it isn't working for you, we'll give your money back. So if you've gone through 80% of the course, and you've participated in at least 3 coaching calls, and you're like, guys, seriously, this isn't working. No question, like you meet those criteria, we'll refund you. So yeah, just trying to make sure that we eliminate any of those things that, any of those inhibitors from you.
And we really do want your family to get well. So that encourages you to get in, try it, meet with us, do some coaching calls, get through some stuff, see how this works. Unfortunately, we're all this way, right? We buy something, it's like, I'm busy, I'm going to get it, but I'll get to it. That's why we also did that startup call. Like we would make more money just charging for this and letting y'all just have it sit on your shelf, but that's not like, it's not helpful, right? We want to encourage you. We want to do that session and get you started and get you moving and get you having some success. And we know there's always going to be a percentage that kind of put that off and don't do it right away. But this is our effort to help you, encourage you to just to get started and be able to jump in and see how it can be helpful. And if it's not, that's cool. I think it will be, but.
Yeah. So question here coming from one of the chats here is what do you do to go from red back to yellow when like you're in a time crunch and there's something? What would you speak to that?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that oftentimes just causes us all to dysregulate, is that I have to get this. I can't just take an hour. You do the best you can with the time you have, and over time you'll find those strategies that work for you. That quick prayer, that deep breath, that reassurance that I'm going to get through this. Self-talk. Do what you can. At the end of the day, if there's a time crunch and something needs to happen, it's going to happen, and you do the best you can, and you give yourself grace. Sometimes those are the hardest to. And we kind of put all the weight on those situations. if those are the ones you're still messing up and you're doing other things well, eventually you'll kind of get those too. And that's sort of the process. But kids will also prey, they'll kind of prey on that, okay, I know that there's a time crunch. You have to make this happen. And therefore you're going to easily give me control. And once we kind of have those moments where we don't do that, then they're like, oh, okay, I can't gain that control anymore. And so even that belief alone, that if I can just stay regulated and get through this and get to the other side of this, more often than not, it'll begin to lose its appeal to my child to try to control it. So
we have one more question tonight, Steve, and then I'll close this in prayer. But we've got one here that says, my 8-year-old doesn't really have any intense specified trauma that we know of, but his behaviors are very much like behaviors of a child with verified intense trauma. Seems like these programs still fit, but can you speak into this?
Yeah, trauma is we have this definition of trauma, and sometimes I say, we have big T traumas and little T traumas, those traumas that are like the big things that we're aware of, but we've all experienced traumas and experiences that have shaped our view of the world. And, we've identified traumas that were big T traumas that parents weren't even aware of. It can be early stuff. Had a kid that had severe migraines that the parents couldn't control when he was like 2, and he didn't understand why they couldn't stop it. And they just, it's a medical issue. We did what we could. The doctors did what they could, and they didn't realize how he internalized that. Any disruptions in attachment can cause those bigger experiences. And it can be, there's so many different ways that kids can internalize things as trauma. Mismatch in attachment, where you just don't fit with your child real well, and that connection doesn't happen, and they're sort of experiencing the world without that connection for a little while until you can kind of figure it out. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why that can happen. And so very often, we have kids with those behaviors that you can't identify that trauma. And we do some trauma therapy. I don't specifically do EMDR, but that's the one that most people have heard of and do. And sometimes that helps. And I do Splunkna, which is a Christian trauma therapy that sometimes can identify pre-verbal traumas, like in the womb traumas, early life experiences. One of my biological sons had selective mutism. So he just wouldn't talk to anyone. And it turned out when we were able to do the trauma therapy that it went back to birth, and his birth experience was the cord was around his neck twice when he was born, and he was blue, and they had to rush him and give him oxygen and do all kind of stuff, that he felt muted from birth. And some of those things we just don't understand. And trauma is so much more complex than we understand, and how a small child will experience some of that and not have any verbal recall of it. It makes it even more difficult and hard to do. So yes, this will be very helpful. And there are many ways which your child can have pretty serious trauma without us even knowing about it. And even if it is just a whole bunch of those like little T traumas, it still can cause that kind of internal working model that just shapes how he sees the world in a maladaptive way.
Yeah. That's great.
Good questions. Thank you all.